Star Wars Beyond Victory is a brand new game and experience. In this video, I'm going to be showcasing what the game has on offer and reviewing it for you. Before we do dive into all of the content that this game has to offer, be sure to subscribe to this channel so you won't miss any future Star Wars gaming news updates. Just a quick note, thanks to Meta and ILM Immersive for providing me with a review copy of the game ahead of release so I could actually make this review for you when the game does come out. It is out right now. So, Star Wars Beyond Victory, a mixed reality playset, is the latest release from ILM Immersive, the studio that brought you Vader Immortal, Tales from the Galaxy's Edge, and more. I've been waiting to see what ILM Immersive have been cooking up over the past few years since Last Call came out. They've tried something different with each of their releases, and this one is quite a bit different from anything they've done before. As in the title, it's a mixed reality playset, so it has 3 key modes, including normal VR gameplay experiences and storytelling, but also the ability to do pod racing in mixed reality, as well as create your own Star Wars fantasies using various props and characters and all sorts from the game and elsewhere. Let's start with what I liked about the game and experience the most, and that is that the graphics are as you'd expect from ILM Immersive. They are as accurate as you'd expect from Star Wars. They look great, but also I was hoping for maybe a little bit of a step up. I was impressed with how sharp the game looked in mixed reality. This was my first proper mixed reality experience on the Quest 3. By the way, this game is only available for the Quest 3 and the Quest 3S, just to keep that in mind. And yeah, I was pretty happy with how it looked. I didn't get taken out of the experience, even though you see your environment around you. Honestly, you are so focused with the fast-paced action of pod racing that you forget where you are. I really like the resizing mechanics, so you can turn the game to be this really little miniature version of the game, which reminds me of Micro Machines and things like that, but also you can scale it all the way up to be massive if you wish to do so. And you can rotate it and change it however you want, whenever you want. So I think that is a really nice feature. Having Star Wars, pod racing and characters and such in your own home is pretty cool and is a nice thing to see, though I am unsure if too many people, especially of the older demographic, will be that impressed. Let's get started with Adventure Mode, as this is the one that most people will probably pick to play first, and it is the canon story. So this is played half in half with VR and mixed reality. It's what I was most excited for. I've really loved the immersive storytelling that has been done in VR by ILM Immersive, so this is what I've been waiting for, and it does deliver. It's a little bit, I would say, interesting because you are going from VR to mixed reality, which does keep it fresh. The mixed reality portions don't overstay their welcome, which is a good thing, something that I was worried about, because then you go back to VR and you have these segments where you are either just getting story, so it's kind of you are in a cutscene, or you are doing things in VR. For example, you can repair your pod, or you can pick up items and learn more about the game's world, the characters, things like that. So you still have the really great VR that we all know and love from ILM Immersive's previous releases, but also you will have this sort of ability to explore the environment in a 3D top-down sort of perspective where you can zoom out or zoom in. No matter what angle you want, you can get it, which I think is pretty cool, and you get to see these much larger environments that we are used to. You pick where you want to go in these segments and speak to various NPCs, find little bits of lore here and there. One thing I will note that I was a bit disappointed with, but I understand it's for technical reasons, is the fact that transitioning from VR to mixed reality, so if you want to exit a building you are in VR, it does take a loading screen to happen. It's only a few seconds, but it is just a bit annoying to have this happen often, considering in other VR experiences you can go through a building and then out of a building and you don't have a loading screen to happen to load in the game world. I played Adventure Mode, so the story for around 2.5 hours, 3 hours, something like that. I would say I'm more than halfway through the story, but that's just a guess. I couldn't complete it due to the fact that after receiving access to this game, I did go in for an operation, so I've been off my feet for a few days. I still kind of am, and I've had to really try my best to get this video and review done. Let's move on to arcade now, which is pod racing. This is the mode I would expect most people to be going back and replaying more often than anything else in this game. So, to simply put it, you can just load up a race, select your pod, and go pod racing, which is what we've wanted to do in a modern Star Wars game for so long. However, it is sort of from a top-down perspective, so there is no first-person mode, which is going to be extremely disappointing to many, many people, if not most people, because that is what people have been wanting for so long, especially in virtual reality. It is so quick and easy to get into a pod race. You can pick which circuit you want to race on. There are a few, not too many. I was hoping for a little bit more, but there are different ones to pick from. Same goes for the various pods and their racers. They each have different characteristics, such as speed, handling, and gadgets. They all do different things, and you unlock these as you progress through the story. It's a lot of fun. I think it starts out as quite overwhelming. There are a lot of pickups, and it isn't really explained too much. I would say the icons are quite small for this scale, and yeah, it's just quite overwhelming. There is a lot going on. The tracks are not as simple as you would probably expect. There are many different lanes, lots of obstacles. You just can't really see far ahead of you. So yeah, the render distance isn't as far as I would like. Sure, it would make it a lot easier, so maybe there is a reason for that, or it's more of a technical reason. I would just love to have had a bit more of a bigger view so I could actually see what's ahead of me a little bit more to give me more chance to react. Again, it's pod racing, it's supposed to be fast and dangerous, I get it. One of my favourite things about this mode are the leaderboards. I know it's nothing special, it's a leaderboard, but you have the ability to see your friend scores and the global ranking, which is fantastic. So people will be really trying so hard to move up the rankings on the various circuits, and this, for me, just gives a bit more element of replayability. Even if you aren't necessarily a huge fan of the fact that it doesn't have first-person mode, you will find yourself, at least I did, really wanting to keep retrying to get better and better, and I did manage to achieve the fastest time in the world out of all of the reviewers on the second circuit. So that will not stay very long, but I'm glad that I did get something. Next up is the toy box, and this is where you can bring in various characters, props, vehicles, weapons, whatever you want, however you want, at any scale, and doing all kinds of things. You can pose them however you want. You can just pick any part of the character's body, just move them around. It's pretty fun. I was expecting it to be not as fun as I thought, but I did find myself just spending way more time than I thought actually posing characters and moving them about, creating scenes. There are a ton of options. You just have the freedom to create whatever you want. I do think this will be seen as a bit of a gimmick to some people. I do think this will work better for the younger age group, although at the same time, you don't get anything physical once you take off that headset. All of those characters, all of the scenes you've created, they don't exist in the real world. So there is an aspect of that missing when you can't actually physically touch anything, which is, yeah, it's not the same as actually playing with real toys. That said, you are able to do so much more because you just have a wealth of options, so many characters and explosions. Like, they have animated explosions and fire, blaster bolts, sound effects, all kinds of things. It's just limited in terms of replayability, I think, because once you've created what you want, then you are done. That said, I really do appreciate the ability to drive the vehicles, such as the pods themselves, as RC cars. So, as you can see, they just go around and interact with your real-world environment. So, if you have an obstacle, there is collision. They won't be able to go through it. They'll have to go around it. And if you hit something so hard and fast, then, well, it blows up. So I really do like that. It's a small thing, but I do appreciate it. It adds a little bit more extra to it, so you can create maybe your own pod racing obstacle courses, and I think that could add more replayability. I think the community could create more. The problem is you can't share any of your creations. They stay within your own space, and that's it. I do have a couple more negatives I just want to share that is not about the first person mode, because I know that's going to be the biggest complaint most people would have. But another thing for me is the shader compilation that happens upon every booting of the game. I thought this was just going to happen the first time you loaded into the game, but it does happen every time you load into the game, which is kind of annoying because the game loads up fairly quickly, but then you have to sit through. It's a short shader compilation, but it's still a little bit annoying that it happens every single time. I did notice some performance drops at times, which did make the game stutter. Predominantly this would happen within the pod racing sections in areas that were very, very demanding. It was just annoying that it would happen because it would sort of stutter. Even despite the shader compilation, there was still performance drops when going to some areas, and that was disappointing because it does put you off when you are travelling at 600 miles an hour in the pod race, and then there's like a stutter and then performance drop, and it's not 100% smooth, and I hope this is ironed out. I will note that the game's file size is also not very big, so that's a plus. It's less than 12 gigabytes in size, so it won't take up too much storage. One thing that I really want to call out, I'm not sure a lot of people will necessarily appreciate, is incredible audio. They have delivered so well on immersing you in this world. There is background music coming out of a radio, and then you can change it, and it's news broadcasts, and they talk about the various pod racers and other characters that you come across in this story. They've just done a really, really good job at elevating the experience and developing the game's world and lore and adding it all into canon. And I think people that love Star Wars lore as I do, all of the little details, will be very, very happy with this. They've done a great job also adding stuff in sort of holograms and things like that you can just go up and explore. There's a lot of Aurebesh for people to translate. There is just a lot of great world building, little bits here and there that those looking for the details will appreciate, and in the audio department they have done a great job here. And I also do like how they use certain sounds and things like that for the UI and the pod racing. Again, top-notch job. So all in all, I would say this is a good experience. It's not the experience that people were expecting from ILM Immersive. Vader Immortal has been such a success. I think people want more of that. Swinging a lightsaber is obviously people's number one priority. That said, you can only do that so many times and people start to get bored. This is completely different to what we've seen ILM Immersive do before in terms of Star Wars releases, and I'm glad they've tried something different. And some of it works, some of it does not work as well. For example, we've been waiting for a new pod racing game for 20 odd years, and we finally have one with VR, and it doesn't have a first person mode. It just feels like a missed opportunity because we've been waiting for this mythical pod racing VR game from a AAA developer for so long. ILM then do a pod racing game experience thing, but it's not what people have been asking for. It's different and definitely is a nice new experience for Star Wars gaming. It does things that nothing else can offer us right now. That said, I just would have liked something a little bit more immersive, more VR elements, personally. I am looking forward to seeing whatever ILM Immersive cook up next, but for now I'm going to be spending a lot more time racing my pod and trying to break records, and if you are on the leaderboard, let me know down in the comment section below if you see my name. I'd love to hear your thoughts on anything I've talked about in this video, so please do let me know down in the comment section below, and remember to drop a like to help support the channel. Subscribe so you don't miss any future Star Wars gaming news updates, and if you did miss any of my previous videos, click on the playlist on the screen right now, and I shall see you in my next video. Goodbye.